Give me 1 second.
I'll go ahead and begin, and then I can transfer it over. Okay, wonderful. All right, well, thank you so much for attending the Summer Guest Speaker Series brought to you by the University of San Diego's Jacobs Institute for Innovation and Education. We're so happy that all of you could join us today. Please say hi in the chat, tell us your name, and let us know where you're attending from. We are so delighted to have with us Marisol Rerucha. She is an author and educational leader. And we also have with us Gwen Alexander from USD Center for Restorative Justice. We are so looking forward to your presentation on Beyond the Surface of Restorative Practices. Before we begin, I'd like to share with you a brief background on our featured speaker. Marisol Rerucha, author of Beyond the Surface of Restorative Practices, Building a Culture of Equity, Connection, and Healing, serves as the Chief of Strategy and Partnerships for the National Parents Union. As a former teacher, principal, and district leader, she uses her voice to challenge systems of oppression and, more importantly, amplifies the voices of others. The impact of her passion, experience, work, and voice is felt beyond her own community as she serves in the following ways: as Director of Culture and Community for DBC Incorporated, Chair of UNIDA's U.S. National Institute for Latino School Leaders Alumni Council, as the Chief Financial Officer and Board Member of Youth Empowerment's Finest, and as a partner consultant with nonprofit for profit and educational systems. So wonderful background. And one thing I would like to ask is that you, if you can, at the end of the presentation, just drop in the link for your book, because we would love for people to be able to buy your book and support you. So at this time, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Alina, and I want to thank USD for the opportunity to be with you. And so we have 30 minutes together. We are going to have some time to chat with one another. And I don't think we'll do breakouts. So hopefully if our group stays small, we can just open up the space for all of us. And then I'm hoping to leave some room for Q&A at the end. I do not have the link to purchase the book. That's something I never prepare. But if we get time at the end, I will do that.
No worries, I'll find it. I'll email it. Don't worry about it.
So I'm hoping we can do, thank you so much, Alina. I'm hoping we can just do a quick check-in. And if you could just give us 2 words. So 2 words, how are you feeling about our time together? And what are you hoping to gain from our time together? So if you could just drop those 2 words in the chat. And let me take a second over here. So I want to say welcome to everybody. I see Stephanie introduced herself. Thank you. So 2 words, how are you feeling about our time together and what are you hoping to gain? As you're doing that, I just want to make a really quick announcement. I am presenting to you from my phone and I'm managing the PowerPoint on my computer. So I'm in two different modes here. I live in Paradise Hills, which was a digitally technology redlined area. So I don't have access to the fastest internet. So we got to do what we got to do. So I just ask for your patience with that. Okay, excited, curious, healing, inspiration, excited, learning more about the work, knowledge, hoping to gain knowledge. Okay, so we're gonna run. I think 30 minutes, 20 to 25 minutes is a really great opportunity to just dig in. And what I will tell you is that some of what I present may challenge you, and I'm okay with that. If you're not okay with that, feel free, to acknowledge that you're not okay with that. And if you feel that you need to leave, that is all. We all need to do what we need for ourselves. I'm not doing anything harmful, but it's just, I do challenge you. So I just wanted to let you know that. Okay, so what our time together, we're gonna connect, learn about and engage in going beyond the surface of restorative practices and dive into what the restorative way of being is. Okay, and before we start, I want to do a quick breathing technique with you. And this is the 4-7-8 breathing technique. And I encourage you to do this technique at least once a day. So what you do is you inhale for 4 seconds, you hold for 7, and you release for 8. And you do this 4 times. There's a lot of research around this technique. Feel free to look it up. It's used a lot for anxiety. I think it is phenomenal for focus. And as we are going to hit the ground running, I want us to just take a minute and to reconnect and reground ourselves. So if you would like to join us, I invite you to please put your feet firmly on the ground. If you'd like to close your eyes, you can do so. And you're going to exhale. And I'm sorry, let me repeat again. So I will guide us. We're going to do the 4-7-8 breathing technique 4 times. So your job is to breathe and just follow along. If at any time you feel like it's too much, like you're holding too long, or you need to inhale, just go ahead and do that and get us on the next round. Okay, so firmly on the ground. If you'd like to close your eyes, do so. Breathe out and inhale. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Release. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Release. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Release. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Release. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Thank you. I recommend using that technique with your staff, as you're transitioning from your check-in into the work. Okay, I'm glad that you feel better. I do too. Okay, so I want to start with this, the identification of the problem and why this restorative work is so needed in our system. And I come from this, from the understanding that this educational system built in on our governmental system is a system that is oppressive. And that systemic oppression has caused generational and ongoing trauma and inequity. And that inequity and generational trauma have resulted in academic disparities, the school to prison pipeline, poverty, generational poverty, and poor mental, emotional, physical health. So I'm going to leave that for a second. And I have a question. So we are going to enter into a circle together. And these are the agreements that we're going to have. Only the person with the talking space is going to be speaking. We use I statements, so we speak from our space, our experience. We don't hide from the we or with the we. We talk about ourselves. If you are representing a group, make sure that you have their permission and are willing to say who is in that group. When we are in our circle, we're speaking and listening with dignity and respect from and with the heart. What happens in the circle stays in the circle, and we honor that privacy. So what that means is that if something happens or is said in the circle that you want to follow up on, ask permission. Don't just assume that it is okay. And in asking permission, you also should be okay to receive somebody saying like, no, I don't want to continue that conversation. What I said, like I need it to stay there. And I'm sharing with you the Chinese character for listen, which includes ears. So you're listening with your ears, with your complete attention, with your eyes, and with the oneness of your heart, and with the respect that you would give a king. So if we can, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing so we can look at each other. So are we all good with those agreements? And if you could just do, okay. So thank you, Craig. And I see some of you, if you choose, to stay off camera, that's fine. But I will ask you to unmute yourself. So here's the question that I want us to think about. In that diagram that I showed you, Who is it that our system has failed? Who are those people that are standing outside of our system? And what we'll do to make things just flow, I'm going to go ahead and pass the word on to Alina. So Alina, and then once you speak, go ahead and pass that word on. If you do not want to share, you can just say pass and then say the name of the person that you would like to give the speaking space to. So the question again is, who are the people, who has our system failed and who is standing outside of our system?
I would say our minority communities, particularly Brown and Black communities.
And who would you like to pass the word to?
I will pass it to Craig.
I'm going to go ahead and pass to Gwen.
I think those who get passed are those who aren't rewarded within the system. So I'm thinking about like how schools work, like individualism, merit, it's based on grade. And so then for those who aren't able to like earn it, then what happens to them, like how we see just through oppression, experience loss and exclusion. And I'll pass to Juan.
You're on mute, Juan.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm an educator. I'm actually running into this, and that's because I found Marisol. Maybe she'll remember me when we were in college.
We got our teaching credential together in 1998, Juan. Of course, I'm going to remember you.
So I'm a teacher. So when I was looking at this, I was looking more of the word choices that we use and talk about oppression and all of that. When we say we're looking for safe communities, and what are we saving, or what are we looking for safety from? And so it bugs me sometimes that I hear those. We're like, oh, we're looking for what's best in our community and what's safe in our community. Who are we fighting here? And that's why I said, oh, it's community. It's when we talk about the oppression and the things, is who do we want to keep out of our community? And that's, I think it's partially the systematic system, or the system that we have does not allow us to grow and see what we can actually become. I'll pass it on to Stephanie.
Students, young and old.
And who would you like to pass palabra to?
Oh, I'm
We have
sorry,
Priscilla.
Priscilla?
We have Priscilla and Lisa.
Priscilla, my apologies. Thank you.
I'm thinking about our impoverished communities, our poor communities, regardless of their color. I think that they definitely are not heard or seen sometimes.
And Lisa, would you like to share?
Hi, I'm thinking about immigrant and refugee populations.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to show you a quick video. And if you are not familiar with Father Greg Boyle, I invite you, it's your official invitation to become familiar with him. He started Homeboy Industries, and his work has really been, he's in Los Angeles, has really been working with those who are returning from incarceration, maybe gang members, and he does a lot of work with substance abuse, trauma, and has done really amazing work. He has 2 books, Tattoos of the Heart and Barking to the Choir. And so we're just going to watch a really short video. But you're going to have to give me a minute because of the sound thing. Okay, hold on. Let me get this.
Marisol, we can't hear the sound.
I think the reason you're here tonight has very little to do with me. It has more to do with what you would like to imagine in the world. Mother Teresa diagnosed the world's ills correctly when she suggested that the problem in the world is that we've just forgotten that we belong to each other. So how do we stand against forgetting that? How do we galvanize the imagination in this room to imagine a circle of compassion and then imagine nobody standing outside that circle? How do we together dismantle the barriers that exclude? And to that end, people will say, like even the Pope and others, in order to do this, we have to go to the margins. Because if we go to the margins and we stand there, our margins get erased because of where we chose to place ourselves. And we stand with a certain particularity with the poor and the powerless and the voiceless. And we stand with those whose dignity has been denied. And we stand with those whose burdens are more than they can bear. And every once in a while, we get this exquisite privilege, this ability to stand with the easily despised and the readily left out. We get to stand with the demonized so that the demonizing will stop. And we get to stand with the disposable so that the day will come when we stop throwing people away. And I suspect if in our imagining,
Okay, can you hear me okay? I think I did my sound. Oops. Okay. Okay, is my sound coming in okay? I can't see anybody else right now.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Okay, I can't see if there were head shaking or anything like that. So the reason why I share this is because I think this question here, how do we together dismantle the barriers that exclude? And we talked about those particular groups of people that we see as standing on the outside. Some are students, some are those who are in poverty. Those, statistics have shown that predominantly our Black boys are the ones that are most likely to be suspended and expelled from school. And while we do not see all of our students and all of our communities as demonized or the way that he describes them, what I do hold on to with that is I hold on to this idea of us, the reason why we don't have peace is because we have forgotten that we belong to each other. And when I look at this problem that I feel I've identified, like this exists because we have forgotten that we belong to one another. And what would the world look like? What would our schools look like? What would our teachers' rooms look like? What would our staff, the staff lounges, what would they look like if we remembered that we belong to each other in that very deep way? And so the solution to this, I really feel, is getting back to ourselves and getting back to each other. And what that looks like is transforming and resetting the foundation of our systems through some very tangible things, through collective, everybody having a voice around our agreements, how it is that we expect to be treated, our expectations of one another, our mission and vision statements, and our belief statements. Now, all systems have these. One of my pushes is I think that we all as individuals need to have these. And the system having this does not mean that everybody has bought into it. And so part of the transformation that needs to occur is that all staff members at all levels need to have voice into the expectations, as well as students and parents and community, and into your mission statements and your vision statements and your core belief and value statements about the work. And collectively, that is where the magic happens in schools. And this work, again, if we get back to that idea of us belonging to each other, we need to start with belonging to ourselves and knowing ourselves and grounding in ourselves so that we can then branch into community and into systems. This is very inclusive work that happens through healing and connection. And I describe this as the restorative way, where we are culturally responsive, culturally sustaining, trauma aware and informed, where active listening is something that we practice, but that we are actively engaged in. And all of this needs to happen with feedback loops. Like we need to be really connecting with ourselves and with others in authentic ways, so that as we are trying these new ways of being, that we're receiving feedback on it in a way that it is not harmful. And this creates a culture of equity, connection, and healing. So when we talk about restorative practice, I love sharing this idea of the fire, because I come from the lens of restorative practices almost in a ceremonial way. And the fire is something that connects us, and the fire is something that all of our ancestors in every single space where human beings have been have gathered around the fire. And this idea of a circle is so natural that we are all perfect circles, right? Da Vinci and the Vitruvian Man, like we're the perfect circle within ourselves. In the circle and having this space is where we can not only repair relationships, restore relationships, and repair harm that is done, but we can also prevent it. And but the way that we do that is by authentically entering the circle in all of our humanity. So restorative practices, this creates, like Juan was talking about, right? Like, what does the safe space mean? And a safe space is a space where we can be brave. And being brave means that we got to embrace discomfort, because the things that we need to talk about, the things that we need to work through, the issues that we have when we talk about systemic oppression, and we look at how it is that our system has failed people, those are really hard things to face, hard things to talk about, and hard things to plan around. So we have to be committed to being brave in that space. Being restorative creates a space for connection through active and empathetic listening and observation, and also practicing engaging and connecting with each member of your community. And there's also a process for data collection, which is really important, because you need to be looking at, is what we're trying working? How is it working? Who is it working for? And how is it not? And how do we make adjustments? This work is not new. This work is not just something that you pick up a book or you go to a training and boom, you're restorative. And also, a restorative culture does not mean that you sent one person to a training and there's a restorative room and you have a restorative practitioner. This is work that every member of your system should be engaged in. And this is also work, when I say that, where all of us need to meet in the circle in our humanity. And I love what Dave Chief and Oglala Lokota says. He says, the circle has healing power. In the circle, we are all equal. When in the circle, no one is in front of you, no one is behind you, no one is above you, no one is below you. This circle is designed to create unity. And so this takes school leaders who may not want to admit that they're committed to their title, and they feel that their title entitles them to respect or entitles them to be above. This, when you walk into the circle, you walk in as a human being. And so that work, if someone even isn't aware that that's how they're feeling, or that, that they're about their title and their paycheck, they have to be willing to go into the work, and the system has to provide space for them to do that. So restorative practices, as I said before, it allows us to set or reset our foundation. And also part of it is we do check-in and check-outs regularly with one another, like we did at the start. Even if it's just 2 words, we're checking in. Mediation happens where if there are issues that are coming up, we can either prevent issues or we can deal with issues that have happened. And ongoing circles help us connect with one another. And also, we need to really practice having difficult conversations. Going into difficult conversations means you have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, and your community has to agree with this. So this work is about a restorative way of being. It's not just something that you do. And the restorative mindset, Carol Dweck has done phenomenal work, right? And she talks about growth mindset. And so in order to have a restorative mindset, you have to be committed to embracing discomfort, to being challenged or scared and trying it out anyway. To engaging in consistent practice and asking for and giving feedback, and doing that without judgment, and also celebrating one another and celebrating ourselves. Also, this restorative way of being, I refer to this as our heart set. So I kind of made this up because I feel like this work is so much more, you know, like we're not just our minds, we're an emotional being. And the heart set is really grounding our thoughts and actions in our beliefs. So here's my belief is that we belong to each other. That's my restorative heart set. And I also think about what Brian Stevenson said. He is the lawyer who has really built up the Equal Justice Initiative. And he has done a lot of work getting people off of death row who were innocent. And he says, each one of us is more than the worst thing that we've ever done. That belief, we are more than the worst thing that we've ever done, is something that really drives me and, you know, continue to drive me in my work in the juvenile court and community schools. Also, my sister, her father, Hakeem Alaji, he told us that practice loving kindness and nonviolence towards yourself and others was his goal. We were doing like vision setting in like 2018. And that idea of practicing loving kindness and nonviolent towards ourselves and others is really at the heart of, for me, what it means to be restorative. And also within our heart is forgiveness, grace, and mercy for all people. So this work, this work in our time together is just, it's just a touch. I'm giving you just a touch of what restorative practices are. Now, some of you may have attended restorative practice training and you get really phenomenal information about the history of restorative justice, about, you know, looking at how we view behavior. But I really see this work is about us going beyond the surface and really looking at ourselves within the work so that in order to change the system. So this is just the beginning of an invitation to this work and this way of being. And with that, I want to go ahead and turn over to Gwen Alexander from the USD Center for Restorative Justice. And Gwen, I'll go ahead and get your slide up.
Perfect. Thank you, Marisol. Hello, everyone. I wanted to share, I'm a graduate assistant at the Center for Restorative Justice here at USD. And that center does many things, trainings, we do initiatives. So RJ work focused on different topics such as K through 12 schools, RJ in medical schools, RJ in Catholic schools. And we also have a restorative justice certificate program. So that's a one-year program comprised of 3 courses to really be able to take that opportunity to dive deeply into restorative justice, theories, integrating them into our workspaces, and really thinking about how to take these very, very meaningful concepts and put them into real application in the fields we work in. So I want to briefly just highlight our work. We're so fortunate to have Marisol in our K through 12 initiative. So thank you for your great insights. I really want to highlight how much we love working with you, and just to let you all know where to go if you'd like to find more information. So a couple brief words about the center, but for time, I'll pass back to Marisol.
And I'd also like to invite you. I host a circle every Tuesday afternoon at 4 p.m. Pacific time. So if you want to screenshot, here's the Zoom info if you'd like to join us. And then also, if you want to connect, you can find me everywhere under my name, Marisol Rerucha, and I'm also Marisol at DaveBurgessConsulting.com. And this is the book, Beyond the Surface of Restorative Practices, that came out. And so as we, I have a checkout question for you. And I know that I'm going to turn it over to Alina in case there's any questions that you have, and I will be here with you to answer any questions. But just if you could think about, in this short time together, what are you taking with you? And you can go ahead and add that in the chat. And with that, I'll turn it over to Alina.
Thank you so much for your presentation. It was very insightful, and I know you condensed a lot of very important information. I feel like we definitely need a part 2. At this time, I'm going to stop the recording part. I'm gonna do